Oh, go ahead.
This implies that an infinitely vast gathering place will be built, and the proceeding therein will be based on what happens here.
Continue. Furthermore,
All transient and fluctuating phenomena seen here will yield the fruit of eternal and immutable form. Thus, all variation observed in this world are for the sake of a supreme happiness. Happiness. A lofty trip. What is that
tribunal.
word?
Tribunal is related to the judgment day.
Okay, the lovely tribunal, and for exalted aims as it yet announced to us.
Excellent. Basically here, all transient and fluctuating phenomena. Transient وقتها كاتي. Fluctuate وقتها برزونزم كا. ها كشتك fluctuate كا. اوكي كاتي مودد جارو برزة جارو نزمة بتا قد يجل خوشة ما fluctuation emotion. وهمود ديار ده كان كبرزونزم كا كهنش كوفا كهنك أمره. Seen here will yield يعني سركيشن بو كومالا بروبومك باشا كومالا ميويك of eternal and immutable form. يعني أشياء أنه دنيا بينجو. Okay, the world of being, not becoming. This is becoming, transient, fluctuating, death and stuff. But here they're gonna bear fruit of eternal and immutable form. And for me, immutable means unchanging. If something is immutable, it doesn't change. The world of becoming is by definition the world of change. The world of immutability is the world of unchange and eternal. Okay? And all the variation, all the changes observed in the world are for the sake of happiness, right? Things are going to be reconciled in the future, in another realm. A lofty tribunal, a noble happening or exhibition in the day of judgment, and there are going to be many exalted aims. Exalted means again, it's like praised, it's like pure, sacred, holy aims, yet maybe unknown to us from our perspective. Okay, so you may take notes of some of the words that could seem challenging at times. Okay. Ms. Sheila, go ahead, read that one down below.
Uh, especially while this imprisonment really is not proper for the full manifestation of this wisdom, favoring mercy and justice, then we would have to deny the wisdom, provision, mercy, and justice which we observe in the life of specially unconscious creatures.
Okay, so this impermanent realm is not proper for the full manifestation. God has all of these different names of the beautiful, of the majestic, of the wise, of the all-preserving, of all the other names as well. The full manifestation means Shandani Tawati, Tajalabuni Tawati, Mazhariyat Buni Tawati, Amhamuna Wani Khayora. Uh, it cannot be done in a world that is imperfect. Then required and necessitated by these names and their full manifestation, then we're gonna have to they're gonna have to be another realm that's gonna have eternal aspects to it. And if there is not an afterlife, then we're gonna have to deny wisdom, the all wiseness of God, the all provisional aspect of God. So we have to take our pick. If there's not an afterlife, then God cannot be the all wise. Because are you actually an all wise person if you create all of these and at the end is nothing? Imagine you are, again, I'm gonna give the analogy of the 12th grade. Imagine you study day in and day out. Your parents are there to serve you anyhow you want. And knowing that full well, on the day of the ministry examination, you're gonna die. Would you be motivated at all? Would all the attempts that you're doing going to amount to anything of substantive meaning? Because at the end it's going to be zero that's going to be left in your hand, right? So it's not wise to do that. We knowing that you're going to die anyways, and there's not going to be anything to be rewarded to. So the same is applied here as well. His names necessitate the existence of the afterlife. This is one of the discoveries of Said Nursi. I don't think I've heard of anybody that I looked into the topic have ever thought from his names to prove logically the existence of the afterlife? Okay. شو العرب؟ أي دفعة. Okay, here we are. Mr. Muhammad, go ahead.
We would also have to regard the source of these wise measures, generous acts, and merciful gifts, all of which are clearly visible, as a trickster or a tyrant. This would mean truths changing into their opposites, which all rational beings say it is impossible.
Yes, did you get this idea? The idea of the world is transient, temporary, and there's nothing that comes after our death or the death of other beings. It basically means that God is playing a trick on us. And all far from God, God is a tyrant. Tyrant wata taghut. Okay? Because, like, I mean, why, you may wonder, we are going through all of these sufferings, sickness, death, war, separation, and God has put all of these deep emotions like loving God, wanting to see God. All of that is going to be for nothing. It means God is playing a trick on us if there's nothing afterwards. And the truth changes into their opposites. What I basically understand from this is what Satan does, because one of the things that Satan does is Satan is going to invert truths into the opposites. This is one of the characteristics of Satan. I know in the modern world, since Satan is not verifiable in the lab, then we're going to posit it is non-existence. No science in the modern sense, no science is going to take Satan seriously, because who has ever seen or felt or touched or heard of Satan to be taken seriously? Right? And that's one of the reasons that Satan is really happy, because um, if God in the Quran says Satan exists, then it exists. How? It may elude any conceptual categorization. And what he does is changing truth into opposites and making us believe that, come on, there's no afterlife. Has there ever been anybody who has returned from the other world? Why would be convinced of the existence of the other world, right? So basically, he's gonna change truths into the opposite. Okay, what are your thoughts on this? I want your thoughts on your understanding on this as well. Anything?
Your thought, I think, is enough.
Okay, if there are any thoughts, please, I want you to be speaking as well. In the coming sessions, I'm going to ask for your thoughts as well. Please share it. Okay, two people mentioned above correspond to three other pairs. So he's going to talk about three levels of people. Mr. Muhammad, read the highlighted ones, please.
My instinct-driven soul and the heart, the seat of spiritual intellect, students of philosophy and students of the wise Quran, and believers and the community of believers. The worst error and misguidance of the strict-driven soul, students of philosophy and recognizing God.
Okay, that is a very striking thing. So he's talking about the instinct-driven soul and the heart, the seat of spiritual intellect. So we have two aspects. One is the spirit or the heart, and the other is the evil commanding soul. We have a both. And let me read Ms. Julio's comment. If there were no afterlife, then all of this would have to be seen as a trick or tyranny, because many injustices and sufferings in this world would remain unresolved. Excellent example. Yes. And reasoning as well that the sufferings would be unaddressed, unresolved, and we're not going to be motivated to really go through suffering with strength and fortitude and endurance, given that none of it matters at all, really. If you think about it, just two layers of reasoning, then you're going to get to the conclusion that why do I care to be moral? I know that being moral is good. Maybe people have information. It is a classical argument that if people don't believe in God, can they be moral? Yes. Yes, they have the ability to recognize the moral laws, but they don't have the motivation to act out the moral laws. There's a famous saying of David Hume. Is there anybody who has heard of David Hume?
Yeah, I have heard of it.
I know, the famous philosopher. An ought from an is. He famously quoted that we cannot derive an ought from an is. The is, for example, we say here are 10 moral laws that we have to abide by. The first is being good to parents. The second is not to cheat. The third is not to kill people for no reason, so on and so forth. These are all information. This is the is. Okay? But can we get an ought? Ought means you should. This is what religion gives. You see what I mean? You can know all the theories of how to be a good human being, but you could be the most evil person out there. Because the ought, the transformation of the is into the ought, that I ought to be good to other people, that I ought to love my neighbor, that I ought to love humanity, that I ought to live like a moral human being, then this is what no scientific theory would ever give to any human beings. And I'm going to relate it back to the point, if there is no afterlife, then I cannot derive an ought from an is. Because why would I? You see? They're all linked, as in the Dostoevsky's novel, it says, if God does not exist, everything's permitted. Okay, everything could be done. It doesn't mean you're going to do it, but it means you have every reason to do it. Nothing is stopping you fundamentally. Maybe social society, but nothing internal. Students of philosophy and students of the wise Quran and believers and the community of believers. And the thing is that he said, very interesting, is modern philosophy. When he says philosophy, don't take it as philosophy as a whole, because modern philosophy, for the first time, broke away from God and broke away from principles. And he says, the worst error and misguidance of the strict-driven soul and students of philosophies and unbelievers lie in not recognizing God. They don't recognize God at all. The Quran, if you look throughout the Quran, God is a given. Subhani, Mawsa Nasir Subhani is talking about this. In the Quran, we don't find that arguments for the existence of God, so to speak. He's a given. He's known that every human being would naturally get to that. But the Quran is most focused on polytheism and shirk, that we shouldn't associate causes to God. When we say associating partners to God, it doesn't mean you're going to associate an idol. Basically, if you're versed in modern science, you shouldn't associate secondary causes to be active with God. We're not saying our parents are the reason why we're here. No, God chose the parents, used them in order for us to come about. The tree is not coming about as a result of environmental and soil factors. They're not causal. If you read a modern scientific textbook from chemistry, biology, physics, what we see is everything is given agency, causal power, but nothing has power except for God. You see what I mean? As endowing power to God. This is the modern polytheism at work. They don't recognize God. Okay, Ms. Gila, read from How Can a Book.
Okay. How can a book, particularly one in whose every word another book is written with a miniature pen, and in each letter of which a mag how can I
Magnificent.
read this?
Magnificent.
Okay. Oud is composed with a fine pen like an author.
That's very interesting. I recently looked into one of the works of a great scientist named Stephen Meyer, who wrote a book on the signature in the cell, the return of the God hypothesis. So he wrote a couple of books. And one of the things interesting that he said is this is very, very relatable. How can a book, particularly one in whose every word another book is written, with a miniature pen? So like a pen of destiny is writing on the cells. Like he talks a lot about the cells, how in the DNA there are these double helixes, and he says they carry information, and they're like letters. You see what I mean? And in each of them, they carry and they replicate and multiply, and they're going to give out to other letters, right? It's like each one of them in the divisions that happens within a cell is going to carry out other books from them, right? It's like all the information within the cell, I think is going to be more than a book. Mr. Muhammad is from medical department. He may enlighten us more with this. But I think within a cell, the amount of information that is being carried to another in the division, right? The information is preserved, just like the name of God, the all-preserving, into another, into another DNA, so to speak, when the cell division happens and stuff. And it's like the pen of God is working on it. And one of the interesting things about it is, have you ever seen a letter without an author? Like, is there any empirical observation that we have seen a letter without an author?
No, there is not.
And the DNA is strikingly like a letter. One of the best analogy to use for a DNA and the information in it is akin to a letter. Okay, information. And information requires mind. There is not a single information that has been created without a mind. Nothing. No letter without a mind. It implies that there is a mind that is sustains the information as we speak. It's not like God did it and he left it alone. Every time he's the Qayyum, he's a sustainer. He does it every single moment. Existence is beseeching God at every single moment. Okay. Mr. Muhammad, read the other one. This is going to be last paragraph for this one. And we're going to come back in 10
Okay.
minutes. Okay.
Every fruit is a letter, and every seed is a dot containing an elaborate traced index. Such a book could have been inscribed only by the mighty pen of a majestic one, who's qualified by the attributes of majesty and grace, and who has infinite power and wisdom. So, affirming the statement of the believer in the parable of loss, necessarily sunk in delusion.
So Badisan says, my observations are based in the world. He observes the world. He's like a scientist, but a spiritual scientist. Okay? So he looks at nature from a spiritual lens. And we're going to talk more about that. And for next session, first I'm going to ask for your understanding so that you could participate as well. Okay? So
Okay, sure.
let me stop the sharing. Come back in 10 minutes.